Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Deratailor. So on today's video I will be showing you how to make this pretty outfit. This is a baby gathered balloon dress. If it's something you are interested in, then keep watching. These are the fabrics I'm working with. This is a plain material and I'm using 1.5 yard, and then this is a Kampala. I'm using 2.5 yard for it. So without further ado, let's get right into the video. The first thing I did was to fold the back and also fold the front. So we're going to be cutting the upper part of our dress first. That is the half length of the dress. So this is my front part, and then this other part is my back area. So you can see what I just did. All of them are both on fold. The front is on fold, the back is on fold, and of course I left about 1.5 inch for my zipper allowance. So what I just did was to tear open my zipper allowance for that part. You can see the way I just teared this open. That was the first thing I did. I then went on to calculate the baby's half length. The baby's half length was 11 inches. So you can see what I marked. I marked 11 inches as a half length. That's her main half length. I then came down by 1.5 inches. And the reason I came down by 1.5 inches is because we are going to be needing as much allowance as possible. And I will tell you why later. The next thing I did was to measure out my neckline width. So her neck width, I'm going to be using 2.5, and then I added 1/4 inch to it. And then for her neck depth for the front, I'm using 4 inches for the neck depth for the front. After doing this, I just went on to use my curve rule to connect it to give me a round neckline. So that's just what I did here. I then placed my tape at the front, the upper front. I then marked out her shoulder width. Her shoulder width was 11. 11 divided by 2, because it's on fold, was giving me 5.5, and I indicated it. I then came down by 1/2 inch for my shoulder slope. So I used 1/2 inch for the baby's shoulder slope. And below the 1/2 inch, I came down by her armhole length, and it was 5.5 I'm going to be working with for her armhole length. And I'm going to be showing you how to calculate an armhole length. You can see it on the screen below. What I then did was to connect her shoulder slope to her neckline. I hope you understand. I just connected the neckline where her neck started from to the shoulder slope. I came down from her armhole area. I came down from her armhole area. Below her armhole area, I'm going to be marking my bust circumference. So the baby bust circumference is 25.5. Because this is on fold, I divided it by 4 and then I indicated it. You can see what I did. I indicated it. So what I'm just going to do is to mark a straight line across my armhole length, so you can just see the way I marked it. The next thing I'm going to do is to calculate my armhole length, and I would be dividing it by 2. I calculated my armhole length, dividing it by 2. That's 5.5 divided by 2. And what I get, I marked it at the midpoint. So that's just what I mean. What I got 2 and some few inches. I marked it in the midpoint of it. I got my midpoint through that. So I just placed it on where my armhole length started from, and then I marked the center of it. After doing this, I then came in by 1/2 inch. From the point where I marked my midpoint, where I got my midpoint, I came in by 1/2 inch. So you can see what I mean. I just came in by 1/2 inch by this. Using my curve rule, I'm going to be connecting this, my new point, that's the 1/2 inch area, to my bust circumference. You can see I'll be connecting it to my bust circumference. I hope you understand that. I'm connecting it with the bust circumference we got, and this is what it's looking like after we connected it, right? From where my armhole length started from, I'm going to be connecting it to the midpoint. So just watch the way I did it. So it is important to use a curve rule when you're working on this. So now this is our new armhole. I'm just going to clean the other one up so that you can see what we got here. I'm just going to clean it up so that I can see what we got here. And after cleaning it, this is what it is looking like. The next thing I did was to calculate my waist circumference from below my half length. So I just came down and marked my waist circumference. The baby's waist circumference was 23. I divided by 23 by 4, and what I got, I just marked it. I went ahead to connect it to the bust circumference, and then I'm just going to go ahead to add in a few allowances to it, a few inches to it as my allowance area. I forgot to calculate my neck depth for the back, so that's just what I'm doing. I came down by 1 inch for the neck depth for the back, and then I'm just going to go ahead to connect it to my neckline width. So that's just what I did. Using my curve rule, I connected it to my neckline width, and after doing all this, the next thing we're just going to do is to go ahead to cut out everything. Now that we are done cutting, I separated the front from the back. I separated the front from the back, and then we're going to be working on our front now. So what I'm just going to do is the baby's underbust, if the baby has an underbust, not like she has an underbust, but let's just call it her underbust. I came down by 7 inches. I came down by 7 inches, and I marked a straight line all around that point. I came down by 7 inches, right? And then the next thing I'm just going to do is to use my scissors to tear it out. That's just what I did. I used my scissors to divide this into two, because why I did all this is because I'm going to be replacing my Kampala with the plain. That is how the style is. You can see it in the screen. So that is just how the style is. So this upper part, I'm going to be replacing it with a plain black material. So we're not going to be needing this Kampala again. The upper part of the Kampala, that's this part, we are going to be replacing it with a plain black material. So I do have here my plain. What I just did was I made it to be on fold, so it's currently on fold, and I placed the upper part, the area that's the 7 inches area, I placed it on top of the plain, sorry, and then I went ahead to cut out exactly the same thing. At this point, there was no need of adding stitching allowance, because remember the baby's length was 11 inches, but we made it 12 and a half, added 1.5 inches. So that was why I added 1.5 inches towards it. So it's just going to still give me exactly the same thing. So now that we are done cutting, this is what it's looking like. So this is what we are going to be working with now. This plain black that you can see here, this is what we are going to be working with now. I do have a lining here that I cut out for my front part, and I also cut out a lining for the back part altogether. To get my band, what I just did was to divide my bust circumference into two, giving me 12 inches, and then I times it by 3. So this band is 36 inches long. I times it by 3, just as you can see on the screen, and gave me 36, and the width of it is 2 inches. Now that you already know how I did it, this part now I'm just going to be running a straight stitch at this point to join them both together. That's the plain and the Kampala together. And after I was done doing it, this is what it is looking like after I was done doing it. The next thing I'm going to do is to start pleating using my band. I do have here my band. By now I'm sure you are familiar with how I got the length and the width of my band, and of course you have to work with your office pin. So I'm working with my office pin. The first thing I did was to just place it at the point of my joining. Remember the joining between the Kampala and the plain, and I shifted a little bit from the allowance area. I then went ahead to make a pin at that point. I just pinned it at that point. You can just see, simple. I just made sure my band was covering the place I joined my Kampala and my black. Then I went ahead to make sure the first pleat I make was facing the opposite direction. You can see this direction it was facing my left hand side. I went ahead to pin it, and then the next pleat I'm going to be making will be facing my right hand side. So you make sure that the pleating that you are making, they're not facing the same direction. They're not facing the same direction. They have to be facing opposite each other. So this one now is going to be facing this other side. Remember the other one was facing my left hand side. This one will be facing my right hand side. I hope you understand. So for every pleat you make, you have to pin it to secure it. Then you're just going to go ahead to stitch it with your machine. But I'm just going to stop talking here and just watch the way I am pleating it. You guys, if at this point you are watching this video and you have not yet subscribed to my channel, please do so by liking and subscribing to this channel. And if you love this video, if you love this tutorial you are watching and you are learning something, please make sure you share this to someone else. Thank you. And if you have subscribed to my channel, thank you so much. I appreciate. And you guys, thank you so much for 1K subscribers. It means a lot to me. The support and the love, it means a lot to me. Thank you so much. I believe you now have an idea on how to pleat this. So you can see the picture below. This is how we are going to be calculating our stitch that we are going to be running on our pleated area. So what I'm just going to do now is that I'm going to be coming up by 1 inches. I'm going to be coming up by 1 inches from the point that's below the pleated point, not above it. From below the pleated point, I'm going to be coming up by 1 inches. You can see what we did, and then I'm just going to be stitching that point. I'm going to be stitching that point multiple times. I'm going to be stitching the point multiple times. That's just what we are going to be doing. After I was done stitching it, this is what it was looking like. I completed the other pleating off camera, but just like I showed you, this is what it's looking like after we're done. The next thing I'm going to do is, this is my lining here that we're going to be using to cover it. I then went ahead to stitch the neckline. I'm going to be stitching this neckline, you can see, and then I'm going to be stitching the both armhole area. I'm going to be stitching the both armhole area with my neckline, and for the back area, I'm going to be stitching the neckline of the back, and then I'm going to be stitching the zipper allowance area, and then I'll be stitching my armhole area also. That's what we are going to do. So now that I have already joined my lining and my front part together, this is what it's looking like. I turned it to the front, that's why it's looking like this. And yes, I have not yet ironed it. I do have here my back that we did. I already stitched it, but it is not yet turned to the front. I have not yet turned it to the front. So this point now, I'm just going to be opening the armhole area a little bit. I'm going to be opening my armhole area a little bit, and after I was done opening it up, this is what it's looking like. After I was done opening it up, I then went ahead to turn it to the front. I went ahead to turn it to the front. I hope you can see what I'm doing. So what I'm going to be doing is to be joining the shoulder area together. You can see how neat this other one is. I'm going to be showing you how to join it like that. So that's just what we are going to do. I went ahead to fix it together. You can see how I fixed it together. And don't forget, remember, we teared open the armhole area for the back a little bit. We teared it open a little bit. I carefully placed them on both sides, making sure the front side was facing the front side, and then using one bit of my lining, using one part of my lining, I used it to completely cover the other areas of the shoulder. I used it to completely cover the other areas of the shoulder. I just used one part of the lining from the back to cover everything of the shoulder, and then I'm just going to go ahead to stitch it. Remember, I just used my lining to cover the remaining part of my shoulder area, and after stitching it, this is what it's looking like. But before stitching, I pinned it just to secure that spot, and then I'll be stitching it a little bit. That's just what I'm just going to be doing. And after stitching it, this is what it was looking like after I was done stitching it. I then turned it, and you can see what it gave me. Everywhere is looking neat. You can see the only part that is opened is the place we teared for the back. I did turn it to the back again. I turned it to the wrong side, and then I'm going to be closing these parts that we teared open. So that's just what I did. I closed up these parts that we teared open. I made sure that I pinned the zipper allowance area. Remember, I did not stitch it, I just pinned it down, and I marked my bust and my waist circumference, and I'm just going to stitch it and turn it to the front for you guys to see. I was done stitching it, and this is how the front is looking like, and then this is the back. Remember, the zipper allowance area is opened, so I did not stitch it. You guys, can you see how full this balloon is looking like? The gathered balloon dress is looking like. Well, I'm going to be showing you in the next video, so if you've not yet clicked on the notification bell, go ahead to click it to be the first to know when I post the part 2 of it, and also make sure you don't forget to subscribe. Thank you so much. See you guys on the part 2.